All right, hello and welcome to episode 501 of the Day One Patch podcast. We're in the second half of 1,000 now, Matt.
Yeah, that's
wild.
pretty good.
That's wild. So 501, let's do some math here. Matt, oh, by the way, Matt's with us. Hi, Matt. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, yeah.
Let's do some math here. 501 divided by 52. How many weeks have we been doing this? 9 years long.
Well, over
we've
9,
missed,
right? Like 9.6 or something.
Because we've missed several weeks, so probably a lot of weeks actually.
Probably a year's worth of weeks.
Really? You think that many weeks?
Well, in 500 episodes, you don't think that we've canceled like 52 times?
Maybe.
Like there's been times during like college and stuff specifically where like we would miss it for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, but even just the 9 years, 9.6 years sounds about right because we started this just out of college, right? Maybe the last year
in
of college.
It was definitely in college at some point. I don't remember when.
Yeah. All right, Matt.
Hello.
You got a fun fact for us?
I do actually. I have a weird, interesting, and wild. No, it's not that crazy, but I do have a title for it. Actually, I put pushing controller tech forward through failure. So it's a little bit of a spoiler for what happens to this thing, but it's not really a surprise, I don't think. So if you don't remember, a few weeks back, and I mean more than a few weeks back at this point, I covered the world's first wireless controller. And the world's first wireless controller was created for the Atari 600. It was by a third-party manufacturing corporation called Cynex, or Cynex. That's how you spell it, Cynex Manufacturing Corp. And eventually, Atari sort of partnered with them, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happened. We covered it back then. And so I thought, you know what, this thing actually came out, right? These Atari wireless controllers, they eventually came out. They were, I don't know how successful they were, but they were around. And so what controller tech was attempted to be created, was in the prototype stages and failed. What happened? And I did some research and I found another Atari item, and it's called the Atari Mindlink. So the Atari Mindlink was designed also for the Atari 2600. And it was a controller that allowed players to control games with their mind. Now, in reality, the Mindlink actually allowed players to control games through forehead and facial movements. The device comprised of a headband filled with sensors intended to read electrical impulses from a player's forehead and facial muscles moving around. And these movements were then translated into commands, such as moving a character on the screen. The headband was connected to the console via a controller port, so it was a plugged-in item. It was not wireless. And along this cable was a black box that housed the sensor processing unit. Now, if you go and you look up pictures of this thing, there's a couple pictures of people actually using it in some sort of, I assume, demo form, because it did appear at CES one year. And they're actually holding this black box. So I thought it was something like, hang on, is this really gimmicky where they're actually clicking buttons on this black box? And that's not the case. It was just the sensor processing unit from the headset. Now, there were a few games planned for Mindlink, including Bionic Breakthrough, which was a clone of Breakout. There was also another game called Telepathy. And this game was actually made more as actually a demo to demonstrate the capabilities of Mindlink. Mindlink took the place of a joystick, although for this particular game, you could actually plug in a joystick and play it. And players navigated mining-themed levels and avoided obstacles like using elevators up and down, going across rivers, avoiding spiders, all those type of things. And then this one I thought was equally as bizarre and funny. And there was quite a bit of info on it, so I just kind of boiled it down. And there's a heck of a lot more out there. I shouldn't say a heck of a lot more, but there is a fair bit more on this. And this one's called Mind Maze. So this game is based on the theory of ESP. Do you know what ESP is, Ryan?
Isn't that where you're telepathic or something, or you can sense things?
Right. So that's exactly what it is. So it's extrasensory perception.
Yeah.
And it's a theoretical thing. It's considered a sixth sense. And the sixth sense in the case of, not touch or hearing or tasting something. Instead, you're using one's mind in various forms, such as second sight or maybe enhanced intuition, etc. Now, what's weird about this game is it's not just, based on this theory because, you're on this, you have this headset on. So you see, the way I thought this was going to play out was it was going to be, the game was a story-based game around the theory of ESP. Instead, the game assumes you have ESP that is being picked up by the Mind Link. So Mind Maze, which is the name of the game to remind you, because I'm saying Mind Link and Mind Maze, it's ridiculous. Mind Maze is played somewhat like those old mind reading experiments where a scientist would hold up a card and ask a person to tell them what was on the other side. Now, depending on the game selected, 2 to 4 cards would appear on the screen each round. And then the player must try to guess the correct card by highlighting it using the joystick and pressing the fire button, or, of course, using the Mind Link to, quote unquote, use the joystick. Now, unfortunately, this is where the game starts to kind of fall apart because the theory of ESP is just that, it's a theory, and the odds that the player has ESP and the ESP can be picked up by this Mind Link device is, of course, ridiculous. And so what basically you're doing as the player is you're just constantly guessing, is this your card? Is this your card? Is this your card? And eventually you just eventually find it, right? It's like, oh, like there were 4 cards and you kept guessing, oh yeah, like you figured it out, like this is the one. And that's all the player really does. Now there were 4 modes that I didn't get super into, but there were 4 modes called number of choices, race or race/no race, picture/color, and past/future. So that like this game is super bizarre. Like it what's weird about it is that it's kind of like not a game. It's kind of like quite literally like, yes, there's a few different modes here and things like that. But at the end of the day, you're looking at a screen and it'd be the equivalent of Fortnite, like having 2 doors in front of you and you say, which door is correct? And all you do is keep guessing. Like if you guess correctly, it's like, okay, the next 2 doors, which one's correct? Mm-hmm. It's really, really bizarre as a game. And so I don't know like what the thought process was on this, like why it was like, yeah, man, it's the theory of ESP, so people are going to play this and they're going to love it. I mean, I don't think kids are going to love just sitting there guessing cards all day, and adults are going to realize in about 2 rounds that, hang on, we're just guessing, and we're eventually either narrowing down the results or we're guessing, getting it wrong, and then like I'll eventually sometimes get it right because there's only 2 or 4 cards on the screen. Very bizarre. Now, the Mind Link, which is the controller now, to be clear, the Mind Link never made it to market because during its testing, it was found that it was causing players to get frequent headaches as they were moving their eyebrows a lot and like stretching out their face muscles all the time to try to get these gestures to work. However, this thing was not just, kind of behind closed doors. It was actually shown off and did appear in a magazine. So the Mind Link was shown at the 1984 Summer CES show. And at that show, I believe it was announced that a Q3 1984 release was planned along with 3 cartridges. Now, there was mention, and I don't know whether this was one of these 3 cartridges, but there was mention on one site that I researched on that there was actually supposed to be a skiing game as well, although it was the only site I could actually find something on that skiing game on. So maybe it was like a prototype or something and it never really came to fruition. Maybe it was canceled. I'm not sure what happened there. Now, I did mention a magazine. So the October 1984 issue of Electronic Games, so this was just a few months after Summer CES, in that issue of the magazine, it stated that Mind Link would retail for $79. That's American. And this was also another potential reason why the Mind Link was canceled, because this was quite a high price point for 1984. And also there was another version, or at the very least, Mind Link was going to be compatible for the other console that Atari had, which is the Atari 7800. And that's that. The Atari Mind Link. It never came out. There's I want to say a copy of it, but there's an example of it, I suppose. There's an example of it in the, I think it's the Video Game Museum, whatever that official one is. And it's like mega rare and it's super weird looking. And it's a controller that tried to push controller tech forward and unfortunately failed.
ESP isn't real though.
Correct.
Like, isn't that the main issue here?
Well, because I mean, it's kind of like it's saying, oh, it's Mind Link, control, like, control with your mind. But in reality, the game would say, yo, like raise your eyebrow to turn right, raise your left eyebrow to turn. So like, yeah, like the marketing was kind of like, whoa, like you have this other perception, but it was clear to the public that you were moving your face around to do this stuff. Yeah, it wasn't absconded from them. However, or hidden from them. However, this Mind Maze game is the craziest thing ever, in my opinion, in this whole kind of saga, because imagine being like, yeah, man, like we're gonna make this game where people just guess the cards,
Hmm.
but they're gonna use a mind link, and the marketing says it's like controlling with your mind, so it's the same. It's like, no, like it's not the same, and no one's gonna have fun doing this.
Hmm.
Like this is just crazy. Like it's a, I know I'm getting kind of caught up on this one game, but it's not even a game. Like it's just bizarre. It's just like random guessing game. There's like no strategy, at least not in the mode that I described. Maybe there is in some of the other modes, but bizarre.
All right, well, that's fascinating. I can, yeah. Do you think like something like that would work today?
Um, I think that we're like kind of in this weird stage of like we're not really down to wear stuff. Even like smartwatches took their sweet time getting popular, and I do know a fair bit of people that have them, but a lot of people that I know actually started with a smartwatch, like a traditional smartwatch from one of the big manufacturers, like an Apple Watch or like a Garmin or something like that, with a full
Yeah.
color display and kind of like the extension of your smartphone.
Hmm.
And then they've remember maybe that device is broken or it just got too old, and it's just been replaced by a very simple fitness device, whether that's some random off-brand manufacturer or like a Fitbit or something, like a really simple Fitbit equivalent. But I just feel like people are kind of done with like superfluous stuff. I don't know, because even like I have smart glasses that are they take pictures, they have transitions lenses in them, and no, I don't have a prescription. They have transition lenses in them. They play music. There's like a touch thing for controlling, play, pause, and I think volume as well on the side. And they're super cool. Like I really, really like them. You can also use them to call, like I think it was like at the time like Meta Assistant. It might be Meta AI now.
Hmm.
I'm not sure because I have the older version. I have the first version of the glasses, and there's a second version out now. But you can also like call an assistant, and they're always on your face. So it's super cool, but they just haven't really caught on, right? Like it's a very niche item that like I think only Ray-Ban has. And there's tons of smart glasses out there. There's like ones that are like AR glasses, and some of them do have cameras, and some don't. Some are just
Yeah.
speakers and yada yada. And we still haven't caught on. Like I've never seen, out of my small sample size of people, I've never seen someone wear smart glasses but me.
I mean, I guess I don't know. It's a lot of tech to pack into a very tiny thing. Like most people want their glasses to be very thin and like almost invisible. So it's kind of funny that they're now gonna get kind of bulky.
Honestly, like they fit in the Wayfarers
Those do
uh
look nice, yeah.
like slim, like the arms were definitely chonkier than
Yeah.
like a traditional Wayfarer, but they're not, it's not that crazy. I don't know, I
Hmm.
like it, I like mine. I really wish they were waterproof though. Like there's been a few times where I'm like, man, I don't really want to wear like headphones going out the door, like I just want to like go for a walk around the town or something.
Yeah.
And it's like I would love to just use my smart glasses and not even use them to take pictures, but just have like music playing or whatever. But if I go out there and I don't bring the case and it starts to rain, they're not waterproof at all and they will break.
Right.
So it's like, oh great, can't work out super hard or anything like that or get super sweaty, so it can't be a super hot day because they'll all sweat on them and then they will break. Like it's really bizarre that way.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Matt.
Well, thank you, Ryan.
Let's move on to the news for the week. First up here, live service game Horizon Online. Reportedly Guerrilla's next project. And Horizon 3 might be a ways off. This is from IGN. Horizon developer Guerrilla Games' next project is a live service Horizon Online project, Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier has said. Schreier told Spawn Waves Spawncast the promised Horizon 3 might be a ways off. However, quote, Guerrilla is in an interesting place because they're working on the Horizon Online game that I'm not sure how many people want that, Schreier said, raising questions about Guerrilla's strategy. They've got this Horizon Zero Dawn remaster coming and the Lego game, Lego Horizon Adventures, coming. What happens if neither of those hit and it turns out that there isn't a ton of interest in Horizon anymore? Are they still going to be doing the online game? There are a lot of questions around their strategy and around that online game that I certainly have. End quote. Um, we just saw Concord. Now that wasn't based on any previous IP, but I don't know how popular Horizon is. But how do you think an online Horizon game would fare?
Well, you and I were chatting about this on PlayStation a bit, and just not really talking about whether it'd be successful, but we were kind of talking about what would the game be. And I mean, one of the things that this realistically could be is it could be PlayStation's Monster Hunter, it could be Sony's Monster Hunter game, where obviously you're running around killing these like robo dinos and robo creatures, and you come from some town, you take on missions, and boom, you have like the formula, it already exists, right? The formula of Monster Hunter and Monster Hunter Online, online play already exists. So they could copy that. And I think that that could be potentially successful. Another thing that could potentially be successful is they could do a survival game where it's just like a co-op, like 4-player game or something like that, or maybe big servers, and they just make a survival game, whether it's
That's
PvP or
interesting.
PvE or PvPvE. That would be cool. However, there's so many of those, I don't know how successful that would be. But I feel like a Monster Hunter game equivalent might do okay.
That's interesting. I never thought about a Monster Hunter kind of game. But I would prefer a co-op game rather than an online game. Which was their online game, World?
Monster Hunter?
Yeah,
Well, Monster Hunter has been online even since the first game.
with co-op though, right? But was World? Am I just mistaking the name World for?
Oh, yeah, Monster Hunter World is just like another title.
It's not a shared world.
No, no, it's not a shared world. I don't believe there are any Monster Hunter games with a shared world.
Okay, well, that yeah, I'd prefer just more like a 4-player or 3-player co-op kind of Monster Hunter Horizon game. That would be interesting.
The thing is, though, is, and you and I were talking about this too, does it make sense to try to make a games as a service game? And what I mean by that is, do you should you go out to make a games as a service game, or should you go out and say, let's make a game that could continually like be updated, or like that's really good, and we could add seasons to it, or we could add, whatever, and we'll work on making that initial release and like the surrounding like first quote unquote season, if you even call it that, really good. And if it catches on, then we'll make all this subsequent stuff, because like you and I were discussing, Ryan, that it's very possible that they're holding things back, or not even necessarily holding things back nefariously, but they might internally be like, you know what, like we're coming up on the deadline, we're not quite there. Let's cut, this, that, and the other thing, and we'll
Yeah,
put that out later when, maybe it's like, yo, let's, no excuses. Let's try to make this thing awesome at release. Let's not try to drip feed too bad.
yeah. What was the other one you had? The the survival game?
Yeah, like whether it's PvP, PvE, or PvPvE, like a Rust kind of thing. Like that would be kind of cool. Although you'd have to be, I mean, I guess you wouldn't have to, but like you would probably be building bases and things like that. But these games do well. Like survival games are all over the place. Indie games, professionally made ones, etc. Mostly indie from what I've seen, and they do well. Like there's a lot of people that like survival games. I think it's just a matter of like, there's a lot of people that like it, but like, are they going to pay like a full retail price for it?
That's
Eh,
always my question. And even Concord wasn't full retail and it still failed.
Right. And so it's like, if this thing's a full retail game, full retail price game, like, is it going to do well? And then with that being said, this is, chances are, I would assume this is a AAA project. And so then it's like, okay, let's make it free to play. But then they're going to have to like crank up the microtransactions to like 11
Yeah,
to make up that AAA budget. And then what do now you're kind of like entering that territory again of like, hey, this sucks because it's being drip fed. Things have been held back and blah, blah, blah.
yeah. So I don't know. But I also don't feel the major fandom for this franchise. The first one, yeah, kind of made a splash, and then it was the first, I think, or at least an early PlayStation game to come to PC. And then the second one came out, and it got overshadowed by something, didn't it? Elden Ring, I think, came out.
Oh, it's something like that. Yeah, like for some reason Horizon and Horizon 2 got overshadowed by a couple of things.
But it must have sold well enough for them to make this Lego game and for them to keep, planning a third game and this online game.
Right.
But I don't know. It's weird when you have a single player franchise that's, let's say it's successful. I don't think we actually know the numbers. But it must be successful, I guess. You have a single player successful game. Why do they think those people want to play an online game? They like the game for what it is, not what it could be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Let's
There,
see.
it'd be like saying, you know what it is? It's like sometimes a spinoff does really well, but it would be like, hey guys, we're going to bring back Resistance. And like Resistance has been gone for a while. There's lots of fans. People keep, commenting on Instagram posts of Resistance on Insomniac being like, yo, remake them and stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's like, we're going to make a new Resistance game. Stay tuned. It's like, okay, cool. And then you wait like a few months, E3, or I guess not E3, but Gamescom or something shows up. And then they're like, okay, we're ready to reveal it. and it's an infinite runner in the Resistance universe. It's like, Jesus Christ. It's like, that's not why we liked Resistance, right?
Yeah. Okay, so according to IGN, Horizon Forbidden West sold 8 million units, and the franchise as a whole has passed 32 million units. That's crazy when there's only two entries.
Those are good numbers too, right?
I would guess so. Now, who knows with, still always go back to that Square Enix where Tomb Raider sold 7 million units, and they didn't like that number.
God.
8.4 million to be exact there.
I want to know like what the maximum potential of a game is. And like, I mean, I guess like in terms of sales, and I guess like probably GTA 5 is a great example, but it's also like a terrible example because it's like who else is going to reach the heights that GTA hits?
Yeah.
So it's like for the layman a AAA game, what sales numbers should they really be looking at for success? Obviously, there's lots of variables in there,
Yeah.
but
Well, we got the remaster coming out of the first game, right? And the second game is now on PC, so maybe that's boosted sales. This IGN article is from May 9th of 2023, so they're probably gonna have a bunch of PC sales added to that. So maybe it is viable, but I mean, it's just a little worrisome when Concord failed, and it's like, does Sony really want to double down on games as a service, live games? When I feel like they're loved for their single player games. It's the whole reason they won uh, the PS4 era, based off of their single player story focused, games. I just don't want them to lose sight of that. They can try
well,
these other things, it's fine, but it's just like don't not at the expense of your single player games.
I was going to ask you a question though. It's like with Star Wars, there's been kind of like a calling before Star Wars Outlaws for, we want a traditional open world game. There's even been calls and conversations about like, hey, like where's the Star Wars games as a service game? Because Star Wars, like the universe surrounding it, the lore and all that, it is so like rich that people kind of want to live in that universe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so if they had a game that was constantly evolving, constantly changing, they could, come and go as they pleased. And every time they came back, it would be fresh. And what's interesting is it almost seems like for a world like that, like Star Wars, it's established enough to the point where people are being like, yo, I want to I want to pay for the season passes. I want to be there, do the challenges, do things like that. And then we turn around and there's another title like Horizon is successful. Like you just went through the sales numbers. There's multiple, sequels. Now there's a spin-off Lego game. And it's like, clearly there's fans of Horizon, but it's like, is even the millions of fans enough? Like, are we at a point in which like a AAA title will only kind of be quote unquote called for if your license is like a mega hit,
hmm
because like we've had this discussion. Like, I mean, like a prime example is Suicide Squad. Like the gameplay had some problems and stuff like that. And DC, DC's huge. Like people love DC, and you would expect, at least I would expect, more than what's there. Like I think season 3 or something like that just launched, and I saw on a Reddit thread. So take it with a grain of salt. Never confirmed it. It was something like peak Steam players once the new season dropped was 249 players. And it's like, you're telling me that DC couldn't convince more than 249 Steam players to come and play their game?
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, what is the formula for these triple or these games as a service games, and is it worth really pursuing at this point?
Ah, God, I don't know.
Well, you've said it, Ryan. You said that it does make sense because the potential reward is so high that even if you were to pursue something safe like, Horizon 3, and then it's a single player experience, you're helping PlayStation dominate that space, right? And then, you ship that and you're going to get, at least a few million sales, assuming it reviews well. You're going to get a few million sales, but I mean, you could be getting a few million sales a month with some sort of games as a service game. But then we had the discussion of like, okay, one of the major problems is okay, you say, okay, we're going to make a AAA title, a AAA games as a service game. That's a big price tag, requires a lot of people, takes a long time, big teams. And then all of a sudden, you release, the numbers aren't what they are. And now there's like, what's the fallout from that? Is
Hmm.
it, it's like, okay, that's it. I guess we're like firing like three-quarters of the team and we're, shuffling around hundreds of people or firing hundreds of people. And it's like the fallout from it is so crazy that it's like, it must be worth it. Like, I think you said that, right? Like, it must be
Well,
worth it.
that was the argument that Alana Pierce made. She was saying that, with the single player game, costs a lot of money. It either succeeds or fails, right? Those are the two options. With a live service game, it's the same kind of thing. It costs a lot of money to make. It succeeds or fails, but the success is so far greater than the success of the single player game. The potential success is so far greater that if you had to choose between the two, which would you bet on? One that could still fail but have such a better success, or one that could fail and have moderate success. You would always choose the live service game, right? Because if you do make one that hits, you rake in tremendous amount of money.
The sad reality though is like a lot of these titles are not doing well. And
Yeah.
and I would say it's honestly like beyond the point of not doing well. And so I agree with your comments in general, but there does come a point where like what is the percent chance of your games as a service game succeeding? And if there's a high chance of failure, well, the potential reward is the carrot dangling in front of your face. Fair enough. However, we just mentioned all the fallout that happens or could happen if your game fails.
Hmm.
Well, how many times can your company be hit by fallout before it completely disappears? At what point do you say, okay, that's it, we got to do something safe? Or do you not do that? Is it all gas, no brakes? And you just say,
Yeah.
well, the company closes, whatever. It's Sony or it's Microsoft or whomever. We're big and we'll spin up another company or we'll get a cash injection.
I think that's the sad reality is that they are willing to sacrifice, staff and studios for that success.
It it's sad. It's sad, and like you and I have also discussed this, Ryan, is like we've kind of discussed this topic a lot off air. And like one of the things I think that we brought up at one point was why not both? Like if you're so willing to take a hit, it's like, okay, then spin up another team and take a hit by uh literally having that other team, like you're floating all their expenses and
Hmm.
have them make a safer game. It doesn't have to be a triple A title, it could be a double A title, could be a mobile title, something where they're going to chip away at smaller projects or a smaller project while your big team does this big thing, so that if the big thing collapses, the big project collapses, you're not completely, kind of caught with your pants down. I mean, CD Projekt Red, they own GOG. Cyberpunk comes out, big old disaster. They have GOG.
Hmm.
They have money coming in. Like they've diversified in that way. Like why do these other companies, like why are these other companies willing to take a hit only after when it's a total disaster? Like why not try to make yourself a bit of a safety net?
Well, I mean, Concord was a studio they purchased, so at least in that case, they were already working on Concord, and then Sony came in and said, that looks good. Um, but when you have stuff like now, maybe Naughty Dog chose to make that Last of Us live service game. I don't know who decided that, but let's say they did, but I think that probably got canceled because they probably know we can't risk, their premier studio, Naughty Dog, making a bad game, ruining its reputation. You know what I mean? Ruining the Last of Us franchise, which is very precious to them. Uh, so I wonder if they dipped that one in the butt because nipped it in the bud. Is it?
I think it's Bud, but it sounds dumb after I say it each time.
I know because most people I think say butt, right?
Or you would even just think of it as being nipped in the ass. That's what I usually say. I
Yeah,
think now
yeah,
is nipped in the ass.
yeah. So I think they kind of shut that one down. But I do agree. I think like if keep the studios that know what they're doing with single player games, keep them doing that, and spin up new studios. Then they can take the risk. It's on them if it fails. So I'm
What do
surprised they even fired people from Naughty Dog. It's just like, why would you like sacrifice that? That potential. Maybe they weren't needed. I don't know, but I'd be worried about that.
you think that if they made a Last of Us games as a service game, that would have ruined the reputation of the franchise for the single player? Because we kind of
Not
talk,
really.
we like talk about them as separate, almost separate games. Although we're into gaming, so maybe it's a bit
Mhm.
different.
It probably wouldn't actually ruin the reputation. People would still scream for the next, single player Last of Us.
Right.
They probably just didn't want a a turd in the set of trophies for the Naughty Dog, who hasn't really had a failure in a while. Now they always can, that's always a possibility, but nip it in the bud, Matt.
What's kind of interesting, I was just thinking, is GTA 5 saw massive success and still sees massive success, largely due to GTA Online, which is
Hmm.
something that you can purchase separately, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But it was certainly released after the main game. GTA 5 came out, it took a while, then GTA Online comes out, and then it receives a series of updates. Like Rockstar seems to realize, hey, you know, we better make this, like, we better make a single player campaign. People want to experience that, and then we'll also make this online component, because like I wouldn't be surprised if the quote unquote single player sales of, well, I don't know if you could even figure that out really, if there's statistics for that, but I wouldn't even be surprised if they were profitable before GTA Online came out. Now maybe that was on the promise of GTA Online coming out,
Hmm.
but I mean, how many people were excited for the story? How many people played through the story? I mean, I certainly was. And so what I almost would say is like, if Last of Us wants to get into this, maybe the idea is you quite literally you build Last of Us, was it 3, I guess now. You build Last of Us 3, you build an online mode just like the first game had, but you get ready. You just in the back of your mind you're like, we may expand this. And if that whatever survival game or whatever the heck it is that comes out as multiplayer, if it does well, like do your marketing and stuff. If it does well, try to update it. And if it does really well, spin it off.
Hmm.
Right. And then people aren't like, all people are going to do is say, Last of Us 3 was great, assuming it is. Last of Us 3 was great, but the online mode sucked. That's not that bad of a stain.
Well, that's what's interesting is that the Uncharted games, at least was it 2 and 3, had online multiplayer, because that was during the whole era where every game had an online mode. Remember? And then the first Last of Us also had an online mode, which was really enjoyable.
It was fun. Yeah, I liked it.
I wonder if that was kind of the inspiration for them doing a live service game. But now a lot of games don't ship with online. Single player games don't ship with online modes anymore, right? It's just a whole other production you have to tack onto it. Mass Effect 3 had an online mode. Big old RPG had a freaking online mode.
I mean, that was like that was kind of like the meme of the era. It became like a meme,
Yeah,
but at
yeah.
the same time, like lessons of the past. Like look at GTA again, like GTA 5, GTA, and then GTA Online.
Which
I
is
mean this.
arguably more important to them than the story. They were
Well,
supposed to have DLC for GTA 5, remember?
yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, and I think it got canceled because of the success of GTA Online. GTA Online is definitely really successful, definitely really important to them. But the
Hmm.
thing is, though, is GTA Online was built on the tool set that was GTA 5. You're in the same map, the same buildings are around, with some exceptions. The same vehicles are around, with some exceptions, right? Like the
Yeah.
updates are really the exceptions. Like they built a single player story game, whatever, and then they said, okay, in this world, using these physics, using these cars and these assets, we're going to build an online game. And we'll add a few here and there for that initial release to make sure that the online mode, functions and, has objectives and things. And then if it does well, we'll update it.
Yeah.
Right. It's like The Last of Us could do the same thing. Like they could take the same like areas, the same assets and stuff like that, and they could make the mode, like, instead of, like, in the past the meme is all these games had online modes, but they were tacked on, right? They were
Hmm.
like very half-assed. Oh, let's do some matchmaking. I mean, hell, what's that what's that game that I played recently, about soldiers, the PTSD, you're in Dubai?
Spec Ops: The Line.
Spec Ops: The Line, that had an online mode,
Yeah.
and I don't hear anything about that. I
Yep.
only ever hear things about the campaign. And it's like, that's because it was tacked on. But you don't have to tack it on. You could say Last of Us 4 or Last of Us 3 is coming out. And then in 6 months, we're going to release Last of Us Online. But it's attached to Last of Us 3.
Hmm.
Like, why not learn from GTA and learn from the mistakes of the past a bit? Like, maybe that's naive, but because no one really else has done it that I can think of off the top of my head. But
All right. Well, kind of speaking of Horizon and Sony and stuff, Sony has delisted the original Horizon Zero Dawn on PC and forces PSN requirement for the remaster that's coming out. This is also from IGN. Sony's controversial PlayStation Network requirement for its PC games is once again in the spotlight after the company delisted the original Horizon Zero Dawn on Steam and the Epic Game Store and added the PSN requirement to the upcoming single-player remaster. Sony's PSN account requirements for its PC games was thrust into the limelight with the release of Arrowhead's explosive PC and PS5 co-op shooter, Helldivers II, earlier this year. Helldivers 2 suffered a review bomb campaign on Steam after Sony made PSN accounts mandatory for PC gamers on Valve's platform. Arrowhead subsequently decided to turn the Steam user review history graph into a cape, which is ready for launch but has yet to release. I don't know what that means.
What was that? Yeah, what was that cape? What was that cape thing that you said there? What the hell was that?
Sony eventually backed down and reversed Helldivers 2's PSN account requirements, but the game remains unavailable to buy in many countries that lacked the PSN. And indeed, all Sony's games on PC, even purely single-player ones, now suffer from this problem, which means the recently released God of War Ragnarok and now Horizon Zero Dawn Remaster are unavailable on Steam in over 100 countries. People seem to get angry over this PSN login thing. I don't understand the anger, but what do you think?
Well, because it's not available in over 100 countries. Like,
that's fair.
It's gatekeeping for little to no reason. Like, what do they want out of you having to have a PSN account?
If the game analytical data,
like if the game was online, that's totally makes sense, you know. But like, I mean, is the analytical data really worth that much?
I think because on PS5, like you kind of have to have a PSN account. On PC, you don't, but Sony wants you to. Now, maybe this is because they're going to bring certain services to PC, like PS Plus, maybe, or I don't know. Maybe they're going to have their own launcher one day. Who knows?
I mean, this is just another indication. Like, I mean, I'm not super into game preservation. I totally understand it. I totally get the need and the want for it, or the want, and you could argue that it's a need, whatever, for the artistic reason, for the sake that, you know, it makes sense for people to be able to play old games, whatever. There's a bunch of reasons for it. And I don't disagree with them. I'm just not like super into it, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not like, you know, at the forefront, of the picket line for game preservation. But I will say that I am a fan of it enough to say this is another thing that just is bad for game preservation for minimal reason. Like Helldivers 2 is online. It's a little bit different. Like eventually the servers are shut down, whatever. And there's an argument there too. But, you know, at the end of the day, like Helldivers 2 is an online title. It's a little bit different. But something like Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, like, really?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't play fucking Call of Juarez Bound in Blood. My internet died and I was like, well, I'm playing Call of Juarez anyway, like whatever. Back compat on my Xbox One or Xbox Series X at the time. I can't remember which one. Doesn't matter. Back compat. Played it for about maybe half or 3/4 of the damn mission, the first mission. And then it was like, yo, you've been disconnected from Xbox Live. You can't play this. I was like, are you fucking kidding? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And the thing is, that's really frustrating about this type of stuff is it's fine until your internet's out. And I know that people will be like, well, Matt, that's stupid. Like, you know, go read a book or whatever. Well, sorry, but like I'm in IT. Like I've tried to prevent stuff generally from going down. And it is a pain in the freaking ass when things go down, especially if you're a person, and I'm not necessarily in this group, but if you're a person with extremely limited time and you're like, I'm going to go online. Oh, my internet's out. I guess I'm doing none of that. And here's the thing. If you're trying to play an online game, you know, it sucks and you're going to have to deal with it. But these companies are putting these friggin' sign-in requirements. I don't know if the PSN requirement requires the internet all the time. I don't know. But it's a step toward that at the very least. Like always online or like a step towards it is friggin' stupid. And in this case, it's gatekeeping some countries for no damn reason. It's like, what's the point?
Well, I get that. That sucks that it's not available in like apparently 100 countries. But that's a Sony decision. That's their own decision. You know, no one says they have to have these games in those countries. That sucks for the people there who might want to play them. But again, you know, that's up to Sony. But I just don't think that the need to have an account with the game is that offensive that people are going and review bombing things. Now, I agree. It shouldn't be an always online type of deal. You shouldn't always need to be connected to the PSN. But I don't think having someone sign up is that crazy. A lot of apps on mobile have have to sign up for accounts and stuff to do certain things. I just don't think it's as crazy as people are going right now.
I don't think review bombing is ever the answer. Like
Although,
review
I mean,
bombing,
Helldivers, it apparently worked with Helldivers.
I mean, here's the thing: is like, I get that it sometimes works. I just wish there was a better way to do it. Like review
Yeah.
bombing just seems so primitive, or something. Like I don't know. It
Well,
feels so um angry above how angry you should be, or something to me.
but it's also just it, it breaks what reviews are meant to be. Does Helldivers, which was a great game everyone loves, does Helldivers really go from like an 8 to like a 1 just because of a PlayStation login? You know, there's no nuance there in that review bomb. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like at the end of the day here, like if like our players, does it make more sense to review bomb to get change, or does it make more sense to make like a very public, like, hey, we're not playing Helldivers right now, like a Helldivers strike. We're not playing Helldivers, therefore we're not paying you any money. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Things like that. Maybe it's not as effective, because there's a lot of gamers out there that aren't as into games that will not know what review bombing maybe even is,
Yeah.
and they just like look, they just show up. Oh, this game sucks, because of the reviews, and they leave.
Yeah.
Maybe they're scared of that more so. Maybe this is like a good form of, I don't know, protest or something. It's just, to me, there to me it's like the review should be about the game, and I think this is kind of
Right.
what you're getting at, right? It's like you're
Yeah.
like the actual content of the game is fine. There's a logistical problem. However, there are times where the game itself messes up. Like one of the things that Helldivers 2 did was there was a series of nerfs, I believe it was, and the game got like a lot harder or something. I wasn't playing during this time, but the actual gameplay got worse. So then maybe that review bomb is more justified. The problem with the review bomb is that everyone goes and like rates it like 1 or 0 or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it should go from an 8 to a 7 because it has a PlayStation thing. It shouldn't drop it down to complete 0. It's not a pile of trash just because you have to log in with PSN.
Yeah, it almost make more sense to be like, everybody go and update your reviews to like 4 out of 10 or something, or like whatever it is that
But
you think it should be.
the internet is not known for nuance and,
No,
so
it just feels like angry mob mentality, and I just don't like it.
yeah.
I'm not a part of it. I don't think I will be a part of it. Maybe someday something will piss me off enough where I'm like, screw these guys, burn all the bridges. I'm done. And I just go at them for whatever reason and do a review bomb. Maybe that'll happen to me someday. I just have never experienced that to this date, and it just feels really weird to me.
Well, I think it's funny that they delist the original game on Steam though, and Epic Game Store though, because that's totally just like a complete, you know, capitalist company decision. You can no longer buy the original game. You're gonna have to buy the new game at a higher price because it's a new remaster, and then they doubled the price on like PlayStation and whatnot, which is also kind of funny.
Like that's so frustrating. Like it's one of those things again where it's like, why don't you motivate me to make that better purchase?
Hmm.
One thing, like one thing I was going to mention. So it's like in this particular case, it's like, why doesn't Sony make the remastered version worth more, or like not worth more, worth it for me as a consumer to upgrade or to purchase the remastered? Like don't delist the other one. Make the remastered justified enough so that you could say, we have both offerings. Which one do you want? Like
Yeah.
make the remastered enticing enough. And I was actually going to say, one of the things that I like to do is like, let's say like I'm like donating to like a charity or something like that. I like the charity items, and this is, partially selfish, but I mean, it works. Is I like the charity items that give me something. So like I went to the Canadian Open, which is a big golf tournament out here. They had these like pretty cool, actually, I would say very cool looking beer koozies. Or beer coolers, or whatever the hell they're called. They're like little coolers that cover the beer can to keep them
Yeah.
cold in your hand. And they were like super cool, like really nice design. And they said, oh yeah, if you buy this, like, you're getting a package deal, you get a beer with it, you get the actual item, and it goes to charity. And I was like, oh. And then it was like, and like, each truck, I think it was at the time, each truck, like food truck, beer truck, was a different charity. So the people that were inside of there were volunteering, but they were volunteers from the respective charities. And then when you make any purchase, I think it was literally any purchase or any tips or something like that, that goes to these like different charities. So like One of the people told me that when you buy that beer koozie specifically, that deal is specifically for a charity, and I believe it's for the charities of the volunteers. So I
Hmm.
ended up buying two. So like I get something out of it. Now the reason why I say this, it sounds like that's off topic, but the reason why I say this is don't force PSN. Make me show up for PSN. Oh
Yeah.
fuck, I'll connect my PSN account if you give me X, and it could just be an in-game item.
Yeah.
Give me one season pass. Give me a cool skin. I'll sign up. I signed up for fucking COD Mobile and played it for a bit because they gave me some stuff. And I know it's not as all encompassing as if is when you force everyone to do it. But just to me, it's sort of like give me a benefit and I'll give you a benefit. The charity wants something, so they say, hey, here's this cool item, and you're probably overpaying for that item a little bit. But I'm like, that's a pretty fucking cool and unique item. I'll take two. I don't only take one, but I'll take two because it's for charity. So in this
Hmm.
case, it's like I'm not saying it's the same like as a charity for like a good cause, but like charitably speaking, like Sony could give away a skin or something, right? Like make the PSN sign in enticing, and for that matter, make the remaster enticing enough, and don't delist the old one.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. Like, what is the value of creating a PlayStation account to play these games? What do you get out of it? And I don't think it's anything really.
Like,
Achievements are handled through Steam.
right.
Um, you don't get PlayStation stars like rewards and stuff. Um, friend accounts handled through Steam. Like what what is the reason? It's just that Sony wants your details and wants to potentially sell you things. Maybe it's even as simple as getting you on their freaking mailing list. Who knows?
I mean, it's like Google Photos. Like when Google Photos first launched, it's like, yo, unlimited storage at this like, this compressed rate. And they trained their algorithm on the photos.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't mind. I know some people hate that. Fair enough, then don't use it. But like I was like, yeah, all right, I'm in. Sure,
Yeah.
train like I have a picture of a dog and a tree and whatever. Like, sure, train your AI to understand a tree and a dog and all that. I'll take the free storage and the better search for photos. Thanks. Even exchange.
Mhm.
At least in my mind.
All right, let's move on to the last story for the week. Interesting. Ubisoft's having quite the time right now, but Ubisoft's founding Guillemot family and Tencent reportedly considering taking the company private amid high-profile flops and share price collapse. Again, from IGN. Ubisoft's founding Guillemot family and shareholder Tencent are reportedly considering teaming up to take the company private following a number of high-profile video game flops and the collapses of share price. Reading just what the headline said. Thank you very much, IGN. Bloomberg reports that both parties are speaking with advisors in a bid to stabilize Ubisoft after shares in the company fell 54% this year. The publication qualifies this by saying these exploratory talks may end up going nowhere, and a buyout is not the only option being discussed. Ubisoft declined to comment. The Guillemot family, including Ubisoft boss Yves Guillemot, holds just over 20% of Ubisoft shares, with Tencent owning just over 9%. At the time of this article's publication, shares in Ubisoft have rebounded a whopping 26.33% on the news. This is
Jesus.
interesting, isn't it?
I should have bought in.
Yeah. You still got that GameStop stock?
Yep. Diamond hands. I ain't gonna get no paper hands here.
But anyway, this is pretty fascinating. But wasn't Tencent not trying a hostile takeover at one point?
No, I believe that was Vivendi.
Vivendi, yes, okay. What's Tencent? Is that the Chinese company?
That's correct.
Ah, okay. Oh, how do you feel about this though? What's your initial thoughts?
Um, One thing I do kind of hate is I hate how it's like this company's having a bit of trouble. Should we sell it? It's like God. Every time, like can we try to get ourselves out of trouble first? It's like when CEOs step down. It's like I had a bad quarter. I'm a disgrace. I'm leaving. It's like great. Now the new guy's gonna have to spin up though.
Mhm.
So now we're gonna have a few more bad quarters, assuming this guy can rescue us.
Yeah.
It's like I just kind of get a little fed up at like the sort of absolute defeatism, if that's a word, of these sort of big corporations. It's like we're this huge monolith and we're built on top of one twig. If someone comes and knocks that twig over, well, down comes this huge monolith. You know what I mean? Like it's ridiculous.
Well, I almost feel like what I find funny is like instead of like a change in leadership, obviously Yves doesn't want to give that up. It's his company, right? But it's like, okay, you're not fixing things. Is going private really going to fix things, or is it just going to make them no longer public?
Right.
Like obviously you don't have to worry about shareholders at that point. Although I guess you would still have private shareholders. Like if Tencent's going in on this, they're going to want profits.
Well, they're partners, and you're not under the same legal obligations to show off things. Like, sir, I mean, this is I don't know the actual laws, but there are some laws that are like, yo, you have to show your quarterly
Yeah.
earnings and other numbers and stuff, and then. Like this is why Dell went private, right? Where see they were getting pissed off. They're like, "Yo, we're doing business and we're doing good," but these shareholders are like, "Well, you didn't do good this one quarter," and it's like, "Yeah, but we have all this business like lined up for next quarter." And it's like, "I didn't ask about that this quarter." Okay, shut it down. What are we gonna do? Okay, let's try to sell the company, right? I don't think they said that, but it's very like reminiscent of like this. It's like this situation. It happens to like a heck of a lot of companies, right? Where these sorry to say this, but these damn shareholders they're too crazy. Like, I mean, I'm a shareholder in multiple companies. If I hear, oh, the company didn't do well, I'm like, oh, what happened? Oh, it was like a disaster. Okay, that sucks. And I hold on to the share. Like, and this is not investment advice by any means. It's just I'm being realistic on like these companies aren't going to do good every 3 months. It's
Well,
ridiculous.
yeah, and it's almost unsustainable. Why is it never good enough just to make a profit? The whole point of a company is just to make profit, really. So you can live off of it, right? And you can invest it in new things, but like the constant growth is just like how can you just expect nonstop growth? And I mean, I wonder if at a certain point you get upset. Like maybe Ubisoft's doing fine financially. I don't actually know their numbers, but maybe they're still making money, but they're just not making more money than they were the year previous, and the shareholders go all nuts at that. And maybe they're just like, fine, we'll cut you guys out, forget you guys, and we'll just keep making games because that's what we like doing, you know?
Yeah, like when you're a private company, all that you're 100% right. You just worry about, the profits and whether you can pay your expenses,
Yeah.
pay for your debts, whatever. And you operate almost like a person does, just on a larger scale, right? Where like a person like, has a budget and pays credit card bills and, whatever, blah, 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 mortgages and stuff. That's kind of what a, private company does, just in the scale of the company, however big the company is.
Yeah.
Whereas like these public, like when you have to be public, it's like you're being scrutinized all the time. Because
Hmm.
like even if like some big analyst or like some big like whatever analyzer or some in some way comes to you and goes, "Hey man, like they write a blog post or something that catches on. They're like, I think Ubisoft is going down the tubes." And it's like Ubisoft's doing just fine, everything's just chugging along, and then the shares drop 30% because of that, or 10%, 5%. It's like Jesus, like you know what I mean. Now you have to deal with all this nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, these private companies definitely want growth as well, though.
Oh yeah, 100%. Everyone does. But the expectation is what's annoying. That you have to do it. That would piss me off. I don't actually think if I made a successful company, I don't know if I'd ever want to go public. And maybe you'd never reach the heights of like an Apple or something. But it's just like I just want to control the company. I don't want other people telling me what to do. You know what I
I,
mean?
I would leave. I think that would be like something for me is like
Oh yeah.
it'd be like, okay, like I'm writing a deal here, like we go public, I'm making my 100 million or whatever, and I'm leaving. Like I'm
Right.
not sticking around. I'm not going to get any more gray hairs because of this place. I am leaving. I'm gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And then start your own company again, right?
No, I
Start a
would
new
just that'd
thing.
be it. That'd be over. I wouldn't do
Oh.
anything else. I wouldn't. I made my money. I'm going golfing. I'm playing video games. I'm hanging out. That's
Like I
it.
understand I understand the idea of why you go public. Obviously, it's a huge influx of cash which you can then use to do great things. But I feel like I would rather take my time building to that point rather than have a bunch of people expecting me to get there overnight.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. Especially when like you can't convince them of stuff. Like if
Yeah.
you're having a like if you're in a private company and there's going to be quote unquote shareholders or partners, and if you have this like big thing where you're like, hey guys, we're going to have a lull this year because we got 4 massive projects coming out next year. It's gonna suck, but let's hold on. And like usually, that's okay. Usually gonna be like, we're making enough money, to pay our bills, to pay our staff, to do this and that. And we have this like these 4 killer titles coming out next year. So that's what we're aiming at. Generally, I would imagine, and maybe I'm spewing bullshit, but I would imagine convincing your partners of your plan would be a lot easier than being like, hey, everybody, we're going to do bad for the next 3 quarters, but don't worry. The quarter after that, it'll be great. And be
Yeah.
like, what? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. It also just kills me that Apple's I'm just looking right now. Apple is worth $3.4 trillion. Back at 2 trillion, there was probably some sell-off where someone sold millions and millions of shares, right? Got out of the company. because of some bad earnings report, right? Well, it's like, okay, they're now worth 3.4 trillion. Why did you leave at 2 trillion? You thought the company was going to explode? Was Apple headquarters just going to get like a meteor was going to strike it?
Yeah.
Like you sold off why? What happened? Oh, you could see that far into the future based off one earnings report. You know, that was apparently incorrect because they went up another 1.4 trillion after that. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just so illogical.
I mean, and you can sell off to get, some cash flow, and that makes
Sure,
sense.
but I'm saying like when there's a bad report, a bad earnings report, people will
Yeah.
sell off a ton of their shares, acting as if the company is on fire.
Yeah, and it's like, well, I think like maybe I don't know, their Apple Watch this is made up failed, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and it's like, but don't worry, the new iPhone is going to come out and it'll be great, and like it always has been, and it'll save everything. And it's like, yeah, but I'm selling till then. It's like, what?
yeah,
Okay, you gonna buy it when it goes back up? Like, isn't that bad?
yeah. All right, that's it for this week's stories, Matt.
All
Moving
right.
on to what we're playing. What are you playing?
Actually, I'm beating stuff.
You're beating
Um,
stuff.
yeah, well, you and I, we ended up having a great session with one of our other buddies, Dylan, and him and I, we beat, I don't remember, the last third ish of Halo 5. And like what? We actually beat the game like 20 minutes later after he took off. So like
Yeah.
we've completed Halo 5, which
Was
is
that
fucking
2 or 3
awesome.
sessions? 3, right?
Three, I think, yes.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I did Arkham City, and been doing that slowly, and I've completed that. Finished that up. That was pretty cool. I hated the last Catwoman mission because I never leveled her up
Oh.
because I barely had to play as her. So I had to do it all with no upgrades. Like, and I think it was literally no upgrades, which was a major pain in the ass. But she's a pretty good fighter, so it wasn't that hard. And I think the mission was kind of tailored for that a little bit because it like if I went in there as Batman, I think I would have really cleaned up. Um, but no, like I beat that game. It was pretty fun, pretty good. On to Arkham City or Arkham Messiah. What's the next one? Arkham Knight.
Yeah, Arkham Knight, yeah.
Arkham Knight. Well, on to Arkham Knight whenever I feel the need to do that. I'm not sure what I'm going to play next. I kind of want to try to get an emulated version of True Crime Streets of New York going, and I might try to play that game to see how that holds up. I feel like it's not going to hold up too well, but I freaking love that game, and I never got to beat it because it just kept crashing and crashing
Mm.
back in the day. So I'm gonna see if I can get one of those running, and maybe try to like get an emulated game complete. Um, but I did install because I have that like PlayStation Plus Extra now because they offered it to me for like I don't know $20 for the rest of the year or something. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it and see if it saves me money. If it does, then I'll keep it up. And I downloaded Dynasty Warriors 9, which is the open world one. That was kind of controversial because apparently it had bad performance on PC. Some people didn't like the open worldness, whatever. Came out a number of years ago now. And so I wouldn't mind trying that. I stayed away from it because of all the negative press, but and it's been super cheap several times, and I still stayed away from it. But now that I have this sort of like whatever PlayStation Plus extra, I'm gonna give it a try. So I might play that a little bit. I really want to play Space Marine, but I also don't want to buy it,
You don't
which
want
is
to
a
buy it.
problem. I don't want to buy
Oh,
that.
right. I understand.
I haven't bought any games in like a long time now, like in a
Yeah.
while. Like it's been months for sure.
Yep. It
And I don't know.
begins.
I don't know. Yeah, it's like you're right, Ryan. Like I'm like, oh, it's not on Game Pass or PlayStation Plus Extra. Well, I guess I'm not having that then.
Yeah.
Then that's it. Like, because there are things that I could be playing on like those services, and I'm paying for those services. So why not? Like, why would I pay $90?
Yep.
Might
I
be a
get it.
problem. Might
I
be a
totally get
freaking
it.
problem. Are you at that stage at all?
No, because I kind of thought this was going to happen. Although, wait, well, let me preface this. It's happened on Xbox for sure. I think the Xbox platform, because I have Game Pass, there's no reason for me to buy a lot of games. And
Mm-hmm.
then all my third party games I play on PlayStation, so I still buy those. So I still value those third party games on PlayStation.
Unless they're on Game Pass, like you're not going to buy Call of Duty, for example.
Right. But that's now a first party game, I guess. But is
Mm.
is Warhammer? Warhammer is not on Game Pass.
No, I'd be playing it right now.
Yeah, so if Warhammer can't like Warhammer's out, yeah, I would probably buy it on PlayStation and have no problem with that.
What you would play Warhammer? Like you want to play Space Marine 2?
I'm just saying if I was to.
Okay.
And I'd be willing to check it out if you ever get it. I might consider like hopping in. I believe it's cross play, right?
I believe so. It's really cool
So
too.
like
Like
if
it's
you got
out.
it for Xbox to play with Alex or whatever.
Yeah. Well, because I could play. I mean, I was considering buying it on PC because it's cheaper.
Holy crap! You
It's,
just big old yes when I searched in Bing here.
it's a wait. What
Is Warhammer Space Marine 2 crossplay? A big old yes showed up.
is that from Copilot?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it autofilled it like instantly too. It knew what I was thinking, man.
Hey,
I
that's
got
pretty good.
ESP. It's reading my ESP.
You got the Atari Mindlink in hand, on
I
on
got
head actually.
I got the ESPN.
Yeah. But I
Sorry,
think I think
continue.
well no, I think that's it. I'm just kind of trying to think. We did a few matches of PGA, which was cool. I've been playing that with my buddy Alex. We've been playing that quite a bit. We do a lot of custom courses, and we've been finding a bunch. So I'm starting to get quite the collection of favorited courses, which is cool.
Hmm.
So we've been doing that, and something else we were doing. We did a little bit of Apex as well, and a little bit of Fortnite. Fortnite, we're kind of like chugging along pretty good in the season, so we keep taking like pretty long breaks. But I do want to get Mysterio, like the full Mysterio outfit, which I'm really close to, and I want to get the variants. So I'm probably gonna have to put some hours into that relatively soon. But I think that has been my week, other than something that we played, which was on stream. We've been playing Halo Infinite. We've been playing a lot of Halo.
I'm loving
Um,
Halo Infinite.
Halo Infinite is fucking fun. Like
Yeah.
it's just like stupid, silly fun.
It
It's
feels
good.
like original like Halos. It's got the corny music that pops up every now and then.
Yeah.
The grunts are hilarious. Everything's hilarious. All the sounds they make when you're killing them. It's nice to be, fighting the Covenant again rather than crazy weird robot aliens. I'm happy they tried something different, a new enemy type. That's fine, but just wasn't my thing. I don't think.
I like the control scheme of this one too, Infinite
Oh, it
and the
feels
older
great.
ones.
Yeah,
Five is five. I don't like it personally because like the control scheme specifically, because I think they were trying to compete with Call of Duty at the time. That's my impression. I don't know if that's true, but it feels like they were like, oh, let's like kind of hybrid Halo and Call of Duty together. And to
yeah,
me, it just kind of became out as like, oh, it's like a faster pace, different feeling Halo. Like, why? I don't know.
yeah,
That just didn't.
yeah.
I didn't jive with me too well.
Anything else?
No, that's it. That's it for me. What about you, Ryan?
So there was that update for Outlaws, Star Wars Outlaws.
Oh yeah,
I did jump into it for a bit to check out the update. So far, it does feel a little bit better, which is awesome. A big like riding the speeder around was a bigger issue. They fixed the camera on it, which was like very odd. I don't know. How do you feel about cameras snapping back to like an original position? So like as you're driving around with your speeder, and let's say you look over to the right to look at like I don't know, the horizon or whatever, and then after like a few seconds, it snaps back to the original camera location.
I don't think I understand what you mean. Like, give an example.
Well, just what I just said.
Snapping back to the original position, though. Like, what do you mean? Like,
There's like as soon as you hop on your speeder, you never touch the controls. You hit square to hop on your speeder, right?
yeah, yeah,
The camera will naturally go to a certain position to orient you with the speeder.
right.
And then you
And
drive away,
mhm,
still not touching the camera. It's just a default camera location for when you get on the speeder.
right.
And then if you turn the camera to look over to the right or left or wherever, after a few seconds, it snaps back to that original source.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So, like, it's not free look, basically.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
I see what you mean. I thought for some reason you were like, you know how, like, in a racing game, you can, like, press usually it's the back
Oh
button
no,
and, like,
no,
go into, like, first person. And for some reason, it was, like, bringing you back out to third. I was like, that's atrocious. That's really bad.
no,
uh,
not like that.
but no, I actually, this is funny that you bring this up. One of the things that I actually do in a lot of games is the camera will go way like, behind you, in this case, behind the speeder, right? In third person.
Hmm.
I move the camera up. So I pan it up so I can actually see, like, it's like the camera literally goes up and over the character just a little bit more. So I can see better,
So,
like
so you
see
can
it
look
ahead of
out
me.
at the horizon more.
Yeah. So I can see,
Yeah.
look out at the horizon more. And like, very rarely do games hold the camera there, and it's a pain in the ass. And I do
Hmm.
that in GTA and everything. And it's like, man, I just wish I could like tell it to lock my camera here, but I just can't do it. So I ended up in some of these games, I actually end up driving in first person because it's so bad.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on this? Like, what brought this up? Like one of these updates?
Well, it was annoying. I don't know if they actually fixed this or not. I didn't check, but they fixed the camera position. So it was kind of what you were talking about, where like you couldn't see far enough ahead of you. The camera was kind of very low, pointing like down on your character when riding the speeder. And so they fixed that original orientation. Now I don't know if they fixed the auto snapping back, but it was really annoying when you would adjust the camera to see further, like you were talking about, and it would constantly snap back to the original one.
Right.
And it wasn't after like 10 seconds or anything like that. It was like almost instantly. Like maybe 2 seconds would pass and then it would snap back to the original spot.
Almost like it's assuming that no, I have it. Like I've got the ideal now.
Yeah. But maybe it's also a safety thing because you're on a speeder, which are going pretty fast, right? And so maybe they constantly want you to make sure you're looking forward. So if you look off to the right, it's like, oh, that's just a temporary thing. You need to be looking forward because otherwise you're going to crash and freaking fall off your speeder.
I will say one thing that is annoying in games that allow you to free look is sometimes I like look over and I'm like, oh shit, and then I actually forget that I'm driving in a different direction.
Yeah.
Because like it's a video game, like I'm not there in real life. So like I definitely do have that problem. It's like kind of like what you're saying, right? Where maybe they're trying to snap you back to say like, yo, like you're going straight, you should probably be looking straight.
But it was annoying. I just want a free camera is what I wanted.
I think it's almost like you want a free camera with a reset.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And that would be perfect. Some games have that, though. That's pretty good. One thing I actually would love, take it a step forward, is give me like 2 or 3 presets where I can like say like I can drag it up, and if it stays there for 5 or 6 seconds, I can click a button and it's like preset 1, and then I could always like refresh to preset 1, preset 2, preset 3, reset to them. That'd be cool.
They also fixed some performance issues. I think they fixed kind of how the character moves around. They fixed some stealth elements because that's a big sticking point. But yeah, I was saying to you last night that it almost feels like this. It's been like a month or so since launch. I can't remember the actual launch date. But it's like they could have just delayed, and it would have already been a vastly improved game. Now maybe they needed the feedback from the fans. I don't know. But so far it feels like it's a better game than where it was, even with just 2 major updates, and they're planning more in the future. So,
what do you think about this? Is like I know that you were kind of struggling on whether you wanted to play it and not take advantage of the updates, and like one of my problems is like a lot of the time like there's a problem with the core of the game. So a lot of people are saying that with Star Wars Outlaws, I have not played this myself, but like the first third or maybe even the first 2/3 of the story are like bad. Like they're really like blah. And it's like they're doing all these updates, of which many are probably quality of life, fixing bugs, things like that. But that core stuff will never get better. So like not only are you missing out on like you're not, if you play it now, you're not getting like this totally bug fixed experience. However, the core reason, or one of the core reasons why it didn't review amazingly for some people, is still going to be present. So like I don't know how to feel about that with some single player games. It's like with online games, they could fix it all up and then release another campaign. I mean, they could technically do that for Outlaws, but like, are they going to? Yeah, it's like, are they really going to? Like, that's kind of weird.
That's what's so horrible about Outlaws is that there's a lot of stealth locations, and stealth plays such a high or it occurs a lot. You need to stealth. There's mandatory sections where you need to stealth. I don't know if they've fixed those completely yet, but how do you fix that when a lot of the game is stealth focused, and that's like the major thing people don't like about the game? How do you fix that? Everything is based around stealth.
And that really sucks too, because it's not like they could just like quickly tack on a mode.
Yeah.
And be like, yeah, like look, like, another end game activity or something that isn't stealth. It's like, yeah, but those other stealth sections still exist. And like with something that's online too, it's like when they add a bunch of stuff like activities to an end game, some of those activities are mandatory for building a character a certain way. But sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes it's just like, well, you can get loot anywhere, do whatever activity you like. But that's not the case here. Like, once again, it's a single player story. So it's not like, hey man, like I got to the end of the game. Now I'm going to grind, for 1,000 hours or something like that to level up. It's like, who's doing that? Like that's, it's, and what kind of sucks is, this is a weird mention, but in a game like Starfield, there is quite a bit to do actually. Like it's busy and it's empty at the same time. Very weird game. We're not getting into that again. But the point is that if you really like building, scouting where to build, doing resource management, making yourself like a a business mogul with like huge tankers, space tankers, moving stuff around. You going to sell stuff and refine things and stuff. You could do that, right? But you don't have to. Like you could just not build ever,
Hmm.
and it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. So Starfield has like scale, and same with like Fallout, right? Like Fallout, like you don't have to go and spend a bunch of time building the settlements. Maybe here and there for a tutorial, but short of that, you don't need to spend time building settlements. You don't like it, don't do it. Whereas it feels like Star Wars Outlaws, like it isn't. Maybe I'm wrong, so correct me. It isn't big enough to do that, to ignore a whole part of it.
You can't ignore the stealth. You can't.
Like it's
You have to.
absolutely like linear wise mandatory.
Yeah, even in one of the earlier missions, you break into some Imperial facility, and to progress, it's literally do not get caught. If you get caught, you have to restart. You know
And that sucks because it's like sometimes like an AI will like turn weird, and then it's like, oh, it should just be a shootout now.
that's yeah, and I guess they could fix that, and maybe they already have because I'm already past that part now. Maybe there will be ones in the future, but if they've already fixed it, I won't know. But yeah, that was the part that sucked, and it was very difficult. It took me like probably 10 or 12 tries to get through that area, and it was frustrating. Because I'm not good at stealth. I know I played Metal Gear Solid and stuff, but I'm not great at stealth. I don't really like it. Now, obviously, I don't want to just shoot everything all the time, but don't make it mandatory. I'll stealth up until a point, you know, because with me, I like video games as like a form of role playing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a real, wizard. I'm not a real super soldier, but it's fun to be that in a game. And yes, I want challenge, but I also want to feel like a badass sometimes. And so if you're Solid Snake, you're supposed to be the best stealth guy in the entire planet, and it's like I'm getting caught all the time. It ruins that immersion, right? And that's why they kind of added things. I don't remember in Phantom Pain. It's like if you ever got caught, you'd go into that slow motion mode, right?
And
Where
you
you
could
could
quickly
then
like eliminate the witness or whatever.
yeah, and it's like simple things like that help you play a stealth mission and still make you feel like a badass stealth guy, you know, because that's like a total like movie thing. It's like James Bond gets caught and he just quickly shoots the guy in the head with a silencer or something.
Yeah, you're not a super spy. It's like in your day to day, like you work in a media department. So
Yeah.
your tools are like someone hands you a video, you know exactly how to convert it, move it, change
Mhm.
it, whatever. Like that's kind of like your thing. Whereas these people that we're playing as in these games have spent, decades, if not longer, becoming super spies or super soldiers or robots that are really good at stuff
Right.
or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And like I'm not that. So I'm controlling this thing. So like I'm not gonna like suddenly become like a great robot in the
Hmm.
or like 007 real quick. Like, oh, let me
Yeah.
just be 007. Like, let me just put my time in and like become 007 real quick. So I have the same intuitions. Like that's not gonna fucking happen.
But at the same time, there does need to be challenge. And I do think Phantom Pain kind of got that right balance. They give you a lot of tools, first of all, to stealth your way through things. And then they were kind of lenient. But here it's just like, a freaking stormtrooper sees you, done, mission over. It's like, oh my God, all right.
That like it almost feels like I mean it isn't that old, but it almost feels like old game design.
Yeah, and this is what kills me is like the game is I think is good, and the world they made is awesome. It looks like Star Wars. It feels like Star Wars. All the rest of it is pretty dang fun. I think a sequel, it's like if they could just learn and start again from the mistakes of this game, the sequel could be really amazing, you know. And I'm just worried that they won't get there because of lack of sales.
I almost wonder if they should like second chance it like sometimes like Cyberpunk kind of like second chanced it where they really spend a lot of time fixing the game and
Yeah.
then they're just like hey by the way like we have this pretty like fairly large size expansion. Like I almost wonder if Star Wars Outlaws could use one of those big like a lot of fixes and then like a big expansion of some sort.
I don't know if they can do the Cyberpunk deal though, just because it's like a 20-hour game. It's not a 80-hour Cyberpunk game, you know, where
No,
people
but
might
you
be
could
more willing to jump back in and into that world and invest in time into it after they fixed it all. Here it's like they fix it all and then like what? Like I don't know.
you could make like a super cool like story though. Like
Hmm.
if you made like something really really cool to get Star Wars fans excited, then maybe you could get some people back. Like if people are like, "This is fucking awesome," and you don't have to like get too far into the game to like get to this point or something, right? Make it so
Yeah.
that somebody could jump in and just do like the better story. Maybe
Hmm.
that is something in the future because like that would help solidify. Be like, okay, yeah, there are people that want to play this type of game. Okay, we can make a second one now
Hmm.
because it does suck. It does suck when you're like, fuck, this game is pretty good, and then it's like, but it's probably not going to like, or this game is on the cusp of being good, I should say, but like, probably not going to get a sequel because
Well,
it's on the cusp of being good.
for
Like,
me, the game is good. Like it's probably like a 7 or like probably a 7. But I think it could be like an 8 or 9 if they had the chance to do it over again or a sequel, kind of deal. And I'm hoping these fixes kind of help it out. I think we talked about like last week that they're hoping Black Friday sales will help boost it. And who knows? Maybe they'll throw it on Game Pass. Maybe they'll throw it on PS Plus. Maybe they'll have a PS5 Pro version. There's other opportunities to kind of make a new launch.
hard sell when it's single player though, a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Other than that, I mean, you kind of covered the stuff. Halos. We've been playing the Halos. I finished the season in Overwatch.
Hey,
Uh, we did play Fortnite Lego
yeah,
Fortnite a while ago. Just kind of hop back in for a bit. I don't know if we're gonna go back at all. It was fun, but you need the people. I'm not gonna play it alone. So
it's fun, but I definitely do struggle with survival games. Like I do enjoy them,
yeah.
but then it's like eventually it's like, oh my god, like I just went out and got like 11 rocks and I need 25. And it's like,
Right, yeah.
holy fuck. Because even if it took an hour, it's like, oh
Yeah.
my God, like I gotta go get 25 rocks. And then you get back to base, it's like 25 rocks and a glowing stick. Like, fuck. And you go
Yeah,
back out in the fucking woods.
you need Amazon in that world. Just order rocks and have them delivered. All right, that's it for us. We're gonna be streaming more Halo Infinite at our Twitch, twitch.tv/DamonPatchMedia, Wednesdays 9 p.m. Eastern. That's it. We'll see you guys next time.
Hey, yo. Peace.